So what if the entire foundation of Web3 is, well, wrong? Today, we're going to dig into a really bold claim from a source that says the future isn't Web3 at all. Nope, it's proposing a radical replacement called WebGold. Let's get right into it.
Right off the bat, the source we're looking at comes out swinging with this quote. It frames Web3 not as the future, but as a failed experiment. You see, this idea of a digital Wild West is the core problem that this whole WebGold concept is supposedly designed to solve.
So how did this big dream of a decentralized internet go so wrong? Well, the source starts its case by dissecting what it calls Web3's broken promise, pointing out exactly where the vision just didn't match with reality.
Let's just rewind for a second to the original dream. The source reminds us that Web3 was supposed to be this huge revolution, right? It was all about tearing down the centralized towers of big tech and handing power back to us, the people. I mean, it was an incredibly optimistic vision.
But, the source argues, the reality turned into a total nightmare. Instead of a stable new internet, what we got was a casino, full of meme coins, Ponzi schemes, and rug pulls. The main argument here is that this whole wave of crazy speculation and wild volatility just completely destroyed any chance of building real, lasting trust.
I think this quote really captures the source's central critique perfectly. It's basically saying that Web3 is an economy that's literally floating in the air. It's all hype and code, with no real-world foundation, no anchor, and absolutely nothing tangible to hold it down. Okay, so if Web3 is the problem, what's the solution? This brings us to the core concept from the text, a whole new paradigm they're calling WebGold.
And this right here gets to the absolute heart of the argument. On one side, you've got Web3, which the source says is built on these floating tokens that have no real value. And on the other, you have WebGold, which wants to anchor the entire system to something very real and thousands of years old, actual physical gold.
So why gold? Why go back to something so old? Well, the source argues it's all about history and trust. It points to gold's 5,000-year track record as the super stable store of value, something that doesn't just collapse and isn't controlled by any single government. In a world of digital chaos, the argument is that gold is the ultimate, unshakable anchor.
Now, the argument actually builds from here, moving beyond just money. The source claims this is about something even more fundamental, our identity. It's about shifting the internet away from anonymous code and back towards actual people. The text really paints Web3 identity as completely dehumanizing. It argues that in the Web3 world, you're not a person with a name, you're just this anonymous string of letters and numbers. You're a wallet address, and there's no inherent humanity attached to that at all.
And here's the proposed fix. Instead of those anonymous strings of code, WebGold introduces a concept it calls a gold ID. The whole idea is to create one unified, human-centric digital identity for everyone.
So what exactly is a gold ID? According to the source, it's this single human-readable name that pulls everything together: your identity, your wallet, your domain, even what it calls your digital territory. The idea is to take all the scattered pieces of your digital self and bring them back together under one roof.
Okay, now we get to the most ambitious part of this whole argument. The source claims that WebGold isn't just another piece of technology. It's the actual blueprint for an entire digital civilization, with its own complete infrastructure.
And this is where it gets really interesting. The source lays out the whole WebGold civilization using these biological metaphors. You start with gold as the real value. Then you have the e-gold chain acting like the bloodstream to move it around. We interact through the organs, a gold OS and a gold phone. The brain of the whole thing is a decentralized AI, and it's all wrapped in an atmosphere called Gold Sky. It's a complete top-to-bottom ecosystem.
Let's just zoom in on that brain for a second, the AI. The source draws a really hard line here. It labels today's AI, like ChatGPT, as CAI, or corporate AI, arguing it's just a puppet controlled by a few big companies. The proposed alternative is DAI, Civilization AI, an AI that would be owned and governed by all of us, by humanity, not just a handful of executives.
And what about that atmosphere that holds it all together? That's Gold Sky. It's described as a decentralized signal network. But here's the kicker. The source claims that because it has no single point of failure, it's impossible to shut down, impossible to block, and impossible to control. It's designed to be unstoppable.
Okay, let's pull all of these different pieces together.
This brings us to the final argument, the big finish, which synthesizes everything we've seen into one conclusive statement about why WebGold is being positioned as the inevitable new global standard.
This table really brings the entire argument home, and it frames the choice in the starkest terms possible. On one side, the source paints this picture of Web3, floating tokens, pure speculation, chaos, and anonymous code, just another piece of technology. On the other side, it presents WebGold as the total opposite, real gold, a real economy, prosperity, human identity, and the foundation for a whole new civilization.
And so, we arrive at the source's definitive conclusion. This isn't presented as a maybe or suggestion. The text states, without any room for doubt, that WebGold will become the new standard for the entire global internet. So what do we take away from all this? We've just walked through a pretty detailed argument for a radical shift in how the internet is built, valued, and even how we live on it. The final question, based on everything we've just heard, is this. Are we looking at the actual blueprint for a new gold-backed digital civilization? Or is this just another chapter in the internet's long, long history of speculative hype? And that's the thought we're going to leave you with.